whose religion? Their religion.
Yes.
Not our
Not
religion.
ours. Not anyone else's.
Not anyone else's. Fuck, not even the Jews.
Exactly.
Like, they only want to get the Jews back to Israel, kicking and screaming if they have to, with a gun to their head, because they're like, this is the only way to bring Jesus.
Right.
Like, their entire motivation, we have to keep, like, there was this whole shit where because the Republican Party in the late 90s and early aughts became really corporate driven, and really, you know, like Enron and all that fucking, where it was very, like, the dogs of war, feeding the dogs of war. We forgot that, I mean, not all of us, but as a whole, as a people, as a society, we forgot that underneath that, it wasn't never about corporations.
No.
Like, everything that fuels the Republican Party, everything that fuels the conservative movement is Christianity. Now, yes, there are, like, racist pagan paths out there, and, you know, and there are some ones that in the heathen Nordic circles that are white supremacists, and they're very pagan, and they're conservative, and, you know, vote fucking conservatively. But by and large, it's filled up with Christians.
Right.
And, or conservative Judeo-Christian, because they don't count the Abrahamics, all the Abrahamics in that, you know, it's very specific. So... Hey witches, blessed new moon in Gemini, and welcome to a whole new episode of Spelling the HEKA-TEA with Marcus and Evan. My name's Marcus, I'm an author, witch, activist, and defiant homosexual.
And I'm Evan, I am an editor, a legal assistant, also a witch, and a big old lipstick lesbian.
Thank you for joining us here in our corner of the circle where we are baneful and blessed.
We are, as well as two homos, one chalice, and creators of a spellbinding good time.
'Tis true. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. If you are joining us yet again,
welcome back.
Welcome back. Thank you. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for continuing to come back and watch. Either way, if you like what you see, please do not forget to like, comment, and share, because it definitely will be helping us.
Absolutely.
This is a day. This has been a week.
It sure has.
Going from last episode where there was just like nothing going on.
It really was not.
And it was really just kind of a chill episode, not a lot in the news headlines.
No.
Well, since then, a lot has happened in a short amount of time. So we just thought, fuck, we're just going to do a Hot Topics episode.
Yep.
So it's basically going to be witchcraft in the news.
For the whole episode.
There's so much to break down and discuss. Everything kind of has its theme. Like, they all kind of run on the same trajectory. It's just, a lot has happened, and it was like, either pick a couple stories and we'll figure it out, or just do it.
So if you watch us as your morning news with your coffee, you are in luck and you came to the right episode.
Yeah, because that's all you're getting. With a caveat, we are still going to be doing SpellCraft, and it will be related to what's going on here. And also, we will still be doing Witchy Media Review, which is going to be the new documentary, Accursed Man. We're not really sure how the director himself has pronounced it, so we'll find out when we watch the documentary. Good times. Yeah, okay. We will not be doing Pagan Invasion. After, look, all that racism and xenophobia. It is a lot every episode, and the next 3 episodes are all about the Mormons, and that's going to be interesting how they tie that all in. But it really, once we get into the news and everything, and then you'll see why that subject had just no relation to anything else going on.
Right.
So, nice opportunity to take a break.
Definitely. That's always a plus in our book.
Yeah.
A week that we don't have to watch Chuck and Carol's faces.
Yeah, talking about how Hinduism and Islam and Indians and Muslims are to blame for everything. Right. Okay, so we'll just get into it. After I burp. All right, so first up, conservative commentator David Brooks, in his May 2nd New York Times column titled "How to Survive the Trump Years with Your Spirit Intact," is blaming paganism for the problems in modern politics and society. He says that we are entering a pagan century, using ancient Rome as a metaphor or symbol for the current authoritative masculinity, moral rot, and socioeconomic political collapse. He equates Donald Trump's worldview to a pagan ethos, one that allegedly celebrates ego, cruelty, conquest, and that stands in opposition to the love and butterflies and compassion and humility he associates with the Judeo-Christian faith. And he uses paganism essentially as a free-for-all, catch-for-all, including to describe tech bros, strong men in the government and business, and Christian nationalism with it.
Christian nationalism is pagan now, guys.
Apparently.
Shout from the rooftops.
Woo!
Extra.
Yeah, okay. No.
No.
None of that has anything to do with paganism.
No, not remotely. I'm confused in what way he's correlating Trump with being a pagan.
I think it's the Mar-a-Lago and gilded Trump Tower
Right.
and the greed and the casinos and all that. Like, he's equating that to, like, I would say more like Caligula, Nero,
Right.
like, decadence, Babel, all that shit.
Which is so... You know, it's the same thing that we've talked about in multiple episodes now, where you are taking paganism at one period in history and using that to conflate the entire umbrella of modern paganism.
Right.
You can't do that with any religion.
No. Well, and he says that, like, Christianity basically, like, or his idea of Christianity basically is, like, full of charity and humility and giving to people and caring for them. Like, bullshit.
It's not.
Bullshit. And, like, no hashtag not all Christians. I'm
No,
sorry.
no.
But the responsibility has to be taken. They are Christians. Like, they're all
Absolutely.
belong to you. Just like paganism is just an umbrella term for polytheistic animism practice, ancestor worship, etc. Not ancestor worship, because it's ancestor veneration.
Yeah.
Like, in those structures, they usually have deities above
Exactly.
the ancestors. It's veneration. We venerate our ancestors,
Right.
but we have gods, goddesses above that spirit. However, whatever
Right.
the formulaic system you follow and which deities you ascribe to, and that they operate, the practice they operate with.
Right.
I'm sorry, but, like, being pagan, like, especially modern paganism,
Yeah.
since the start of the 20th century, end of the 19th, has been all about the earth and healing and not hurting things and famously promoting vegetarian and veganism and the sacred sanctity of all souls and all life and caring for our planet and taking care of our planet and not draining its resources. I just, this catch-all of, like, saying, oh, anything we don't agree with and that we think is outside of Christianity is paganism.
Exactly.
No.
It's such a cop-out. It makes no theoretical sense.
No. And here's the thing, you guys, like, we are a marginalized religious practice.
Exactly.
Polytheism, paganism, etc. and all of its forms and branches. There are, like, 2.5 million Hindus in the United States, so that's less than 1% of the population.
Right.
That's still 2.5 million people just in the U.S.
Exactly.
But that's not a lot of people within percentage. Like, paganism, polytheism is a marginalized religious practice.
Yes.
And then we have all the things that break down within it. Just like Christianity actually has a bunch of things that break down. Like, you're like, I'm a Christian. Okay, yes. But what kind of Christian?
Exactly.
What type? What branch? What denomination of Christianity do you follow? And to conflate paganism with greed, with all these things that are literally the fault of the Christian right. That's the thing. It's like, this David Brooks is blaming these, like, these symptoms and decays and infections, etc., of our society and on every aspect or whatever. These are all things that are because of predominantly the Christian right and the conservative in the Republican Party, the GOP, like, in all of its forms. Like, this isn't because of Christianity. This is because of neoliberal white American Christianity, which is in itself is a whole other denomination of Christianity. Like, this has nothing to do with us tree hugging fucking trying to heal the world fucking pagans.
No, like, don't blame the Romans in the 9th century BCE on us sitting here in 2025.
Right. And even then, though, back then, so many pagans, like I talk about famously, HEKA-TEA literally has famously said, I never get my dinner on her Dikenon, on the new moon, on the dark moon. She's like, famously says, I don't get to enjoy my offerings because the poor, the hungry of the world get to my feast before I do. And it is required of us as HEKA-TEA witches, those of us who follow HEKA-TEA, it is required in part of that service to her to give to the less fortunate, to the needy, to the world, in one form or another, those less fortunate than you, to give. And if you are truly less fortunate and you can't give, then she then invites you as her follower, who is the less fortunate, to partake of the charity given in her name. Like, and that's been that way for eons. I'm not even gonna say thousands of years. Fucking the eons of HEKA-TEA's worship, which, again, when we have her, like, I know we keep alluding every episode to, like, how old she actually is. Trust us, she's fucking old.
Oh, yeah.
Like, but that has been her core tenet from day one. Take care of the less fortunate. Like, and so many others, the Vestal Virgins, like, that was all about the worship, the service of Demeter. We're all about agriculture and feeding the community. Like, in part, being a service of Demeter back then was in part taking care and feeding your village, your community, and the temples would feed out to the people like a food bank. Like,
Yeah.
these things happened. Ancient Rome, ancient Greece gave us democracy.
Exactly.
Which, the thing is like, and I bring that up because in this article, David Brooks, he talks about how, like, this paganism is an antithesis of democracy and all this shit. Democracy came from the pagan world, you dumb bitch. God. David Brooks,
God.
You are an idiot. You are an idiot. I'm sorry. You are an idiot. Either you are willfully blind, willfully ignorant, or you very much are learned and know facts and know the truth. You're just spinning things to fit your fucking bourgeoisie, neo-con, fucking neoliberal, fucking conservative, right-wing agenda. Because you may be opposed to Trump, but you are still a conservative. You are still a Republican. So shut it.
You know, I think there's this trend amongst the conservative conclave right now of referring to anything that they don't personally like as pagan or witchcraft.
Yep.
I just think it's very interesting, and it's something that isn't usually rooted in a lot of sense. And if you actually review any historical facts or you know, roots that these things each come from, their claims, nothing connects.
No, nothing.
It's just anything that you don't personally like
It's
is
pagan.
pagan and
It's
of the devil,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. So speaking of people who transvert long-held situations for their own personal gain.
Yes.
On May 1st, Beltane, Trump signed an executive order creating the new Presidential Commission on Religious Liberty, which he used to question the separation of church and state that has been held in our country since the inception of our country.
Right.
The full mandate of this new commission is unclear, but it will meet at the White House. There's a list of commission members. I'm not going to get into each person right now.
No,
but several high-profile conservative, religious, and political figures, all Christian. While the stated goal of the commission is to protect religious freedom, no members come from minority faiths. There are no dissenting perspectives on the separation of church and state included. So obviously this is heavily skewed towards Christian leaders.
Yes.
And obviously this raises a lot of questions about political partisanship, as well as the lack of religious diversity, not only in this new commission, but in the country at large.
Yeah. I mean, we know whose religion, their religion.
Yes.
Not our
Not
religion.
ours. Not anyone else's.
Not anyone else's. Fuck, not even the Jews.
Exactly.
Like, they only want to get the Jews back to Israel, kicking and screaming if they have to, with a gun to their head, because they're like, this is the only way to bring Jesus.
Right.
Like, their entire motivation, we have to keep, like, there was this whole shit where because the Republican Party in the late 90s and early aughts became really corporate driven and really, you know, like Enron and all that fucking, where it was very like the dogs of war, feeding the dogs of war. We forgot that, I mean, not all of us, but as a whole, as a people, as a society, we forgot that underneath that, it wasn't never about corporations.
No.
Like, everything that fuels the Republican Party, everything that fuels the conservative movement is Christianity. Now, yes, there are like racist pagan paths out there, and, you know, and there are some ones that in the heathen Nordic circles that are white supremacists, and they're very pagan, and they're conservative, and, you know, vote fucking conservatively. But by and large, it's filled up with Christians,
Right?
And or conservative Judeo-Christian, because they don't count the Abrahamics, all the Abrahamics in that. You know, it's very specific. So. It's not for us. No. We know this is to protect them from getting punished for discriminating and doing shit.
And attacking us.
And don't be fooled. So the thing that is most consumed by like conservative, by Christian TikTok, Christian Instagram, social media, etc., is all the stuff on witchcraft, demons, demonic possession. Like, that is the biggest thing. Like, you look up Christian TikTok, Christian, you see what is trending on there. That is the number one thing people are looking for. And you have people, you know, like J.D. Vance, Marjorie Taylor Greene, like people actually in office, in positions of power and real influence, going on tirades and shit about witches, witchcraft, demons. Like, this is very serious. They take it very seriously, and they're planning, something's coming. And we've seen it, we know it's coming. They're setting up for something big. They're trying to shut down witchcraft shops. We know this, we've seen this, it's still happening. There's an organized movement happening, and we need to watch out, because this is not to protect any other religion.
No, other than Christians, and
particularly protect them in doing harmful things to everybody else.
Exactly. I mean, if it were otherwise, there would be varying voices in the community.
Right.
You know?
Because to them, there is no religion other than Christianity.
Yes.
So we have a new Pope, Pope Leo the 14th. So it's interesting because there's so much speculation on all of this, and, you know, and the conclave is gathered, and now the smoke, and it's always pomp and circumstance, and was our first American Pope from Chicago, later moved down to Peru. His family actually traces its roots to Louisiana, where they were on the register as Black, and it's very evident from the pictures of his great grandparents that they were at least half or a quarter, like they were mixed, like. he doesn't like the homosexuals. We do know he does not like Trump or Vance. He's against literally everything the Trump administration is doing. And as a result, MAGA Christians and MAGA movement and MAGA Catholics, all that shit, they're losing it.
Oh, yes.
Marjorie Taylor.
I love the taste of MAGA tears in my coffee.
Same. Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, has been famously going on a rant now for a while about how the Catholic Church has been infected by Satan and demons. And that's the tale all the time. The Protestant branch of Christianity has always looked at Catholicism as just paganism in Christian drag. I mean, in a lot of ways it is, which is a sad thing. But what they also fail to forget is that is OG Christianity.
Exactly.
That is Christianity, like in terms of like an established
exactly. I mean, that is Christianity season 1. You are Christianity season 25, where it's gotten weird.
Right. Like
with new writers.
Well, we should say Christianity. I would say that's Christianity season 2. Season 1 is cult leader.
Oh yes, that's true.
Jesus Christ. He's walking through
the JC,
saying that he's a Messiah and building this cult. That I would say is season 1.
That is season
because
1.
then season 2 would be all the branches that developed, including Catholicism, that were then all fighting to say who is the true Christians. That was season 2.
Yes.
More modern Protestantism, which we have from the Puritan times, really, from Cromwell. I mean, you go back to Martin Luther and kind of say Martin Luther with Lutheranism kind of was the first, and then obviously Henry creating the Church of England, which did kind of establish Protestantism as an officialness in the same way that Cassius, the Emperor Cassius, made Christianity in the 4th century, the official, after Constantine, saw in the 3rd century, saw the blazing cross. And wait until we get into all that and who the Christian God actually is.
Oh, yes.
And how that all happened, because y'all are going to like blow your fucking minds on all of this. In advance, shout out to the amazing Bethany historian and anthropologist, Bethany Hughes. You are amazing. But yeah, it's just fucking ridiculous. But that was like season 1.
Yeah.
Like, this is like this project. This is season 3, and then you get like Mormonism. More contemporary, like Mormonism, that and Baptist, that would be season 4.
And it's all just getting more and more out there and ridiculous with each season that goes on.
Yeah, like
it's like True Blood.
Yeah, I mean, oh Jesus, it is like True Blood. Where Christianity is started is now, it's like fucking every season of True Blood.
Suck it. Suck it. Suck it. Suck it. Suck it. Suck it is mine. Suck it. It's me. Suck it. Suck it. It's me. Suck it. Suck it. Suck it. Suck it. Damn it. Suck it. Suck it. Suck it.
Woo! But what's interesting is, you know, Catholicism really is just paganism and Christian drag. It really is. And I mean, and I just know it from experiencing Catholicism on my own in different ways, but also from talks with other Catholics that I've known in my life, when they'll talk about things and then I'll talk about my practice and things, and then they're like, oh, that's very similar to things you do. And we're like, no shit. No shit. Like, most of your saints, sorry, yes, I know of many, now you have many thousands, so there are many that did live. But you're like tried and true beginner saints, you're like, bitch, so many of those were just pagan deities and the fae folk with a new name, like, or an altered name.
Well, if you think about it, Catholicism sprang up out of that time where Christianity was attempting to take over the pagan population, and so they had to have those links for people, otherwise they weren't going to follow anything.
Yeah, well, someone had said in the Bible, maybe it was it the Apostle Paul? It might have been Paul. Someone in the Bible said, go over to where they meet around the tree and pray around the tree instead of going and chopping the tree down. Tell them to continue meeting here as they have been, but just change the worship to Christ, to Jesus. So yeah, you're still basically, it was like, we're going to convert them. We can't change anything. We just have to like alter names and like alter like faces, but like the actual act of ritual in itself, like don't fuck it, we're not changing anything.
Because they knew that if they did, no one was going to come to the new religion.
Right, exactly. And so now, of course, we are in a position where it's clear the MAGA, right, and everything fully believe that with this new pope, it confirms their satanic cabal. It confirms now that, like, it has been infiltrated, the church has been infiltrated by Satanists. And that Catholics are lost, it's all lost. I mean, but the thing is, they already believe that. They already believe that. Like, my grandfather, who I've talked about many a time, I mean, when he found out that my grandmother, who he was divorced from, when we found out that my grandmother was dating a Catholic and that he had taken us to Mass, oh my God, and then he had done communion, oh my God, he lost it. And he was like, you commit yourself to the devil, like, how could you guys how could you know? And, like, we were small children. And he was like, oh my God, that was so wrong, your soul is lost, how could you do that? And we were like, we were just being taken to church on a Sunday. And I, again, was like, this has nothing to do with me. But I also still remember and falling in love with all the ritual of it and the beauty of it and just everything about it. That has continued on to this day, right? So I will go to a Mass. I will, like, I think they're beautiful.
Oh yeah, to this day, if there's a Christian church that I feel I can feel comfortable entering into as a pagan. Like, it is a Catholic church.
For sure. That's the because there's the goddess in her Virgin Mary drag.
Exactly.
There's all these deities there, just in a drag. You know, and so it's like, it's, you know, oh, there's, you know, there's Peter with the keys.
Right.
Hi, Papa Ligba. Like,
Exactly.
there is, it's just Mary of the Bleeding Heart. Oh, hi, Oshun. Like, there is, it's just, it's a place, there's still candles, there's incense, there's beauty, there's there's sacred space, and you can feel the sacred
really
space.
can.
I'm sorry, I've never gone into an evangelical church, like a modern church, and felt sacred space.
No.
I don't. It's terrifying and sterile and weird, and yeah, I don't get it.
The Catholics said, we're not polytheists. Wink.
Right. Wink, wink. Well, apparently Catholics, number one person Catholics pray to is the Virgin Mary,
yeah.
and then down the list,
Yes.
like number 10 on the list is Jesus and God. Like, and
that tells
between
you what
yeah,
you really need to know.
that tells you who people rely on and who people know to go to. So, yeah, that's where we're at now with the new Pope. Good luck to him.
Right,
Glad I'm a pagan.
I know. Although I like that we now have a Pope who has been to a Walmart.
Same.
Anyway, I'm going to jump in with some statistics right now. So back in 2018, through the Pew Research Center, PEW, like a pew in a church,
Yes.
there was a study that showed that more Americans identified as pagans than there were members of the Presbyterian Church.
Oh.
In the U.S.
Right.
Which I think is very telling because while we are seeing such a resurgence in the Christian right, the more liberal leaning denominations of Christianity are seeing shrinkage.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting because I would have thought that even the less occupied denominations of Christianity would still have more than pagans do.
For sure.
But apparently no, in 2018, there were more pagans in the U.S. than Presbyterians, which I love. And of course, since then, that decline in liberal-leaning Christian denominations has continued to see a steep decline. Across the pond, only a third of English 20-somethings identified as Christians in the last census. So that's interesting. Of course, in the global south, so we're talking Africa and Asia, places like that, both Christianity and Islam are seeing a sharp incline amongst young people. Yeah. Amongst Gen Z in both the US and the UK, more recent data is finding an uptick in Christianity, especially in young men, who are now outnumbering faithful Christian young women for the first time.
Yeah.
So that's not terribly shocking.
No.
In the same report, which was commissioned by the Bible Society and conducted by YouGov, 18 to 24 age bracket was the most likely to believe in God, to pray regularly, because these new wave of Gen Z Christians are viewing their religion in the same way that they view self-help.
Right.
Which I personally think is very misguided.
Yeah. Well, because you can, especially because you apply so many of those teachings onto yourself.
Exactly.
And let it define your identity. Even if you actually deep down don't believe those things, especially the younger you are, the more you will just absorb it and adopt it and spout it and push it. Even if you were to take 5 seconds and sit down with it, you'd be like, oh, I don't actually agree with this, or I don't believe this. But because it's so easy to be influenced at a young age and indoctrinated into things where you just go with the flow, it's not a matter of thinking critically.
No.
You just go with the orders.
Exactly.
Because especially as children, as students, you're in school, you're in these places where for 8, 9, 10 hours, and you go home, you are told what to do, how to do it. You're told that basically it doesn't matter what you think because you're a kid. Like, you are, what do you know? You're still a kid. Like, so you are put in this position where it's like, don't question things. Like, it makes it easier if you just go along with it, don't question.
Right. And once you get out of school and you are in that like late teens, early 20s phase, like you are still at this period in your life where your brain just soaks up information, everything about your surroundings. And so when you are putting yourself in like a Christian right environment, you are going to be absorbing those things. Whether or not you think it's impacting every area of your life, it will.
Yep.
And I really think that that really goes hand in hand with what we're observing in the U.S. right now. There really has been such a resurgence of Christianity amongst those of the younger generation than us.
Well, and I think it's really telling is that like because of how intense it's all getting, that's why you're seeing this decrease in like the liberal leaning more progressive Christianity, because it's becoming very like the culture, everything is like basically the driving force of Christianity. If they're going Christian, it's because you are right wing, like like you want the hardline shit. And then if you are like, I'm not concerned all about that, there is this bad taste in your mouth where you're like, I don't want to deal with Christianity. And I think it is really going to come. It's coming down to Christians and pagans. It's coming down to Christians and witches, and that because it's always been that way. All right, let me be more clear. It's coming down to Christians, or coming down to witches or pagans, and the Abrahamic faith. But it's always been that way. This is how it's always been. It has been, yes, they fight amongst themselves for who's the real one that the Abrahamic God is all having a boner for.
Right.
But in terms of like the external, it's always been them and their God versus the pagan world.
Oh yeah.
And they are terrified and talking repeatedly about how the pagans are coming. So they're creating, even if we aren't contributing to this war, they're bringing it in. They're self-fulfilling, because for them, it's fulfilling a prophecy of the end times. And they need that desperately because they've been claiming it's the end times for 1,000+ years now.
Exactly.
And it hasn't happened yet. And now we were in post 2000 into deep into the new millennium now. 25 years into the new millennium, they're flipping the fuck out because shit that they said was going to happen has not. And everything keeps trucking. And for those of us who remember what that was like in the year 2000 in 2008, 2009, when there was all these prophecies, this date is going to be end times, because they desperately needed it. Because a lot of them grew up in this, being told this is going to happen, and then they got older, their life fucking sucks. Life's hard as it is, and we know this. Life fucking sucks for the everyday person. It's a fucking grind, and you hope for those brief moments of joy, but by and large, life fucking is hard, it's grueling, and demanding, and it sucks. And they went off the fucking boat.
Right.
It's why they follow fucking Elon. He doesn't give a shit about them. He's not taking them on his spaceship to Mars or whatever. But they need to believe that there is somebody who is going to get them off the fucking boat.
Yes.
One way or another. They're looking for a messiah. Get off the cross. We need the wood.
Right.
Springfield, Massachusetts. I'm having to read off a phone because this is a very long piece. Witch Panic. Massachusetts Before Salem is an exhibit that opens May 17th at the Lyman and Marywood Museum of Springfield History in Springfield, Massachusetts, and runs through November 2nd, so last day of Dead, Dios de los Muertos. The immersive interactive exhibit explores the 1651 witchcraft accusations against Springfield couple Hugh and Mary Parsons, a full 4 decades before Salem became synonymous with the term witch hunt. Witches are an extraordinary historical conundrum. And in the Parsons story, we explore the truths behind the myths, said Elizabeth Capp, history curator at the museums. The Europeans living in 1650 Springfield were trying to define themselves, but neighbors discovered it easier to uncover those who did not fit in. Located on the edge of the colonial frontier, early Springfield in the mid-1600s was a small settlement perched on the Connecticut River, where life was shaped by wilderness, uncertainty, and strong religious belief. It was during this tense period that the Parsons, already considered unusual by their neighbors, were accused of witchcraft and murder amid a series of unexplained illnesses and misfortunes in the town. The exhibition is divided into 2 main sections across 2 floors. This is why it was too long. On the first level, visitors will be introduced to daily life in 1650 Springfield, from homes and farms to religious life and local customs. Interactive displays demonstrate how common household objects like broomsticks and cauldrons came to symbolize witchcraft, while children and families can enjoy hands-on activities such as assembling puzzles of so-called familiars, so-called my ass, creatures believed to serve witches, because they do. The second level focuses on the Parsons case itself, inviting visitors to step into the role of a 17th century grand juror. Through first-hand witness testimony, period evidence, and a dramatic recreation of the courtroom atmosphere, guests will be asked to weigh the evidence and cast a verdict. Running concurrently with Witch Panic is, my apologies, my Japanese is not that great, Yokoi, Japanese Ghosts, Demons, and Monsters, on view May 17th through July 20th. This companion exhibition showcases traditional Japanese woodblock prints and artifacts depicting supernatural entities from Japanese folklore, from shape-shifting foxes to vengeful spirits, and traces their enduring presence in modern pop culture. For more information and tickets, visit springfieldmuseums.org.
Oh, I would go to that if I were
so
there.
excited for that.
Gosh.
I love shit like that. It reminds me of, in Salem, they have the Witchcraft History Museum, which is in an old church, and it's amazing and creepy when you walk in there, and it's kind of like, almost kind of like a lazy, Pirates of the Caribbean ride or something. Like, it's kind of got the same kind of like mannequins and things light up, and it's dark, and it's a narrator, and there's no ride. You're not getting in a ride or anything or doing anything, but it's just, it has that same feeling that like you're on like the Pirates of the Caribbean or something. But I like that this exhibit is happening.
Me too.
I like that it's like multi-level and you can explore all these different things. I wish we could go see it.
I really wish we could. That would be amazing. But if you are in Massachusetts or anywhere on the East Coast, please go and visit and have a great time and tell us how you liked it.
Reach out to us on our socials, on here. Let us know what the exhibit was like. Pictures, video if you can. We'd really appreciate it.
Oh yeah. With our Pacific Northwesterner limitations.
Yes, and lack of travel funds, and also fear of traveling at the moment, thanks to planes falling out of the sky and other scary things going on right now for people who look ambiguous or their color is not ambiguous. Yeah.
On May 10th in Kuwait City, the Misdemeanor Appeals Court overturned a conviction that would have sentenced a woman to a year in prison with hard labor on charges of fraud and practicing witchcraft.
One of these charges.
Oh, yes. But luckily enough, it was overturned for her, citing insufficient evidence and flawed procedures. So what happened was that this had stemmed from allegations that she, quote unquote, defrauded people. It's
Right.
it's always the fraud.
Always
the fraud. By claiming to have supernatural powers, she charged 300 Kuwaiti dinars, excuse my pronunciation, dinars, thank you, per session. She operated out of her home. I mean, how dare she charge for her services?
Yeah.
Like,
make a living and pay the bills.
Right. How dare she have a home business?
Yeah.
So awful. So there was a tip-off, clearly by someone who received her services,
right,
to the police. They enacted a sting operation. So the officers booked a session with her, and once the money was exchanged, her home was raided. Her witch supplies were seized, like talismans, herbs, stones, etc.
Right.
Seized by the police. She was arrested. Her attorney, Inam Haidan, argued that the search was procedurally invalid, that it lacked credibility, and that it was based on speculation. She emphasized her client's denial of the charges, all of which resulted in a full acquittal. So yay, Miss Haidan.
Yes, yay, Miss Haidan, and also, you clever witch. Like,
I know, right?
Sting operation, like, I'm sorry, they caught ya. There was, like, they don't really give a fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they got, like, like, they don't give a fuck. Like, that's a witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, you got out of that. Like, you, like, good job.
I know, right?
Like, no shade. Like, good witches. Like, that's the thing. Is like, we're in uncertain times. Like, you need to, like, if something happens to you, if I snap you, if something happens to you, remember, you don't need all the shit. As a witch, you need to be able to cast spells. I don't care if you're sitting in a jail cell. Like, you need to lean on and have faith in your magic at all times. And we're in a time now where you gotta resort to magic, not only to protect yourself, but to also get out of some situations. Stupid law to begin with.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that the avenue they're gonna start using here?
Exactly.
Fraud charges.
Yeah.
Like,
It wouldn't,
tarot readers,
right.
the people that you see on, like, I mean, other commentators
Right.
that we love and follow. Jimmy Metherall, Annie Maddox. These are people who offer witchcraft services.
Right.
You have retailers. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to start happening here. To shut us down.
Exactly.
To find ways to shut us down.
Exactly. And it's so ludicrous, and it's just happening all over the globe. I mean, luckily this story in particular had a happy ending.
Yes.
But there's, for every
Especially
story.
for
Yeah. And I love that the attorney who assisted her was female.
Thank
Like,
love it.
hell yes. Like, it's just very, like, and I think it would be really funny if the attorney was also a witch.
Right.
That's just how I'm going to see it in my mind. I know it's not necessarily true, but that's how I'm seeing it in my brain.
I'm fine with that. I think that's okay.
Yes.
The Sri Ashtalakshmi Temple in Sugar Land, Texas, erected and dedicated a 90-foot statue of Union. It is allegedly the third tallest statue in the United States, and it depicts the Hindu deity Hanuman. And again, like I mentioned, there are an estimated 2.5 million Hindus in the U.S. So apparently, for whatever reason, this statue has just recently, as in April, this past month, infuriated Christian nationalists and evangelicals all over social media. Didn't really bother anybody last summer, apparently. But so prominent post-liberal evangelical Megan Basham tweeted on X, "It is becoming clear that we have a large subset of the church that worships the ideal of religious plurality, more than they worship the God of the Bible. They seem to have little zeal for the glory of his name and no care when other names are raised up against his. We may have to tolerate pagan statues in this nation, but we should never act as if their presence in our public spaces is an inconsequential thing of little significance. It is a blemish and shame on our nation." She also noted, "We have Christians who think it's no big deal to have 90-foot statues to pagan gods in the heartland." A Claremont Institute vice president who prefers Christian civilization / dominion over just Christian nationalism tweeted, "The tallest statue in Texas is of the Hindu god Hanuman in Sugar Land. Its dedication in August of 2024 was used to promote Indian immigration," which is not true. "Your community will have a civil religion. Will it be compatible with your civilization, Christian civilization, or not?" So for context, the Statue of Liberty, which is the tallest U.S. statue, is very heavily influenced by images of HEKA-TEA and is a fucking deity. The second tallest statue is in Florida, and it's Pegasus and Dragon, as in Pegasus the horse god and dragon. In Montana, there is the fourth largest, which is Our Lady of the Rockies, which is the Virgin Mary, which, as we know, is earlier indigenous goddess, obviously, roots. The Vulcan statue that overlooks Birmingham, Alabama, and Vulcan is the Roman god of fire and forge. This is a tribute. This is in Birmingham, and it's a tribute to its steel and iron past. And in Nashville, Tennessee, They have the recreated Parthenon of Athens, completely accurate in every way, with a giant gold gilded Athena inside in the middle, just as it is in Athens, Greece, in the Parthenon. This goes back to like this like religious freedom and religious liberty for me and not for thee.
Exactly.
Like, they don't have religious tolerance. Like, there is no religious tolerance. There is no tolerance for any religion. Christianity, now, yes, there are Christians who are religiously tolerant. Again, we're not speaking about individual Christians. But Christianity, the Judeo-Christian Abrahamic framework, as a whole, believes that they are the only one true thing. They literally tolerate Jews and Judaism because they believe Jesus is going to come back and save the Jews that acknowledge him as the truth, the way, and the Messiah. And they will gleefully watch and hope and can't wait to watch the returned Jesus smite and just decimate all the Jews who refuse to believe in him along with everybody else. Like, they literally glee at the idea of people being lost and destroyed. They believe they're going to heaven, and they actually don't want anyone coming with them. Like, they just want it to be like, and this speaks to that same thing. And the fact that this is becoming pushed, touted, means that this is going to be on the agenda.
Oh, absolutely.
This is coming. They are coming. And they may be like, we're going to re-erect Robert E. Lee and take down Athena. Like,
although she was right about one thing. Girl, you got me. I do have no reverence for the name of Jesus.
Right. Like, and then, of course, once again, we're seeing the racism towards Eastern religions and Eastern faiths with saying that the statue was erected and used to promote Indian immigration into the United States, and specifically into Texas.
Right.
No. This is a temple, and on their property, on their private property, with their funds that they raised through their church, they erected what about all the places with giant fucking crosses?
Exactly.
With giant fucking, like, oh, but that's okay to drive down the highway, drive down the freeway, and, see, like, up on a hillside, 3 giant, 25, 35, 40-foot crosses.
Right.
And I bring that up because as someone who's lived in Texas, who's lived in Colorado Springs, Colorado, which is literally Mecca for evangelical Christianity, I have seen these things. Here in Washington, if you're going south towards Portland, you hit Centralia, Chehalis, and you look up on the hillside, and there are giant crosses. We're talking 20, 30, 40 feet tall crosses erected. What about the churches on the freeway that literally have giant light-up signs that are fucking 40, 50 feet tall that say Jesus loves you?
Right.
Like, that's all okay. But any other religion, any other faith, erects something on their property, in their fucking name, in their religion, shut it down. It's evil and it's against America. Like, they're not tolerant of us. They don't believe in religious tolerance of any kind outside of what they believe, particularly if they're evangelical American white Christian.
Right. It really, and this is why we watch Pagan Invasion on the show. I think it really goes back to, the Christian leaders of today were people who grew up watching Pagan Invasion with their parents. Because a lot of these themes I see in that series, there are so many times in the episodes where Dave Hunt is talking about whether it's meditation or whatever it is that he's talking about, but he goes on a whole tirade about how it's bad and it's evil, and then he uses an example of how it's okay when he does it, because he's doing it in the name of the Lord. Correct. And they have that mind frame about so many different aspects of life.
Well, and what's interesting in that you say that is, so I did a little looking, because I never actually paid attention. We're not the only ones watching Pagan Invasion. It is, you look at its views on YouTube, oh yeah, and the thing is multiple users have the episodes posted. Like, multiple, which we'd already found, but I never really sat with it, and then I went and then looked, and it's not, sometimes it is where it's like someone's just reposting videos that somebody else had posted, right? And they're just putting it on a playlist. No, so many of these are like people just individually uploading these episodes on their own, and they all have thousands and thousands and thousands of views, and it's not the same people watching every episode with one user, and then going to another channel and rewatching it again put by someone else. So this is in total, millions of views of people who are actively watching the Pagan Invasion, and guess what? They're not all watching it for satirical reasons.
Right.
Most of these views are people who believe everything that we're seeing and who are getting their knowledge and education from it. And especially since it's an older documentary series and all this shit, and it sounds pseudo-intellectual and pseudo-researched and pseudo-true, they're believing that because of all those factors, that equates to authenticity and truth. And this is shaping modern ideals. And you go check out the Christian podcast, they're espousing stuff that literally tells you they fucking sat down and were binging Pagan Invasion on YouTube over the weekend and taking notes and building their ministry around it. Mark Driscoll, he literally, that's all he talks about, is demons, witchcraft, and how everything's demonic, how everything's witchcraft, how everything's Satan, and so much of what he espouses, he got from fucking watching Pagan Invasion.
100%.
So it's scary. These things have thousands and thousands of views by multiple uploaders, channels, and that just tells you how many young people, you know it's young people who are fucking watching, who have fallen into this alpha male, Christian nationalism, trad wife, trad husband, fucking alpha beta fucking pit that they've all, these Andrew Tates and all this shit. Like,
exactly. 75-year-old Marjorie Dobson is not logging on to YouTube to find Pagan Invasion. She has it on VHS.
Yes, exactly. She's just popping it in her VCR because
Exactly.
she doesn't even have a DVD or a Blu-ray player yet.
If you're watching this, Marjorie, pop it.
Are those VHSs still working?
Right? We gotta know.
They run out. Did you wear it out? Inquiring witches want to know.
So I have at least one piece of more uplifting news.
Ooh.
And that is that there has been an app released called Sober Witch Life, which is not something that would apply to me, but I'm glad it exists for those who need it.
Yes.
It is a recovery tool combining sober witchcraft with spiritual healing. It launched back in October of 2024, just when we did, oddly.
Oh.
And it has since surpassed 300 downloads of the
Nice.
app, which is awesome.
That is.
It's designed for witches in recovery. It blends energy healing, divination, and shadow work.
That's awesome.
So it's founded by a medium, Reiki master, and high priestess named Sunshine. She is a recovering alcoholic who rebuilt her own life through witchcraft. She created a platform called Illuminate the Unschool of Sober Witchcraft, and now she helps other recovering witches on their path. Witches in recovery,
Right.
not recovering witches.
Right.
I did not mean that as in
But like the
someone
ex-witch
recovering
Christian, right.
from witchcraft. Just a witch in recovery.
Right.
That's what I meant. So that's who she dedicates her time and her space to helping out through her platform and more recently her app, which I think is amazing. So it includes lots of different features. The Sober Witches Toolkit, which is 13 steps to recovery.
Love that.
Yes.
As it should be.
Exactly. There's also an event portal, push notifications, and links to resources like workshops, guidance, and rituals to help witches on their sober path.
Oh, cool.
So I think that's really awesome.
I do too.
Obviously, we are witches who love our
Me and
wine.
mine, yes.
But we also don't struggle with addiction.
No.
So I really love that this space exists for those who are on a path of recovery and are also of the polytheistic, pagan, or witchy faith, because I think so many of these recovery spaces are geared towards Christians.
Well, that's what I was about to say. So the 12-step program is literally a Christian program.
Yes.
AA and A. They mostly take place in church basements, churches. They are
Explicitly
God, Christian
church,
driven.
yeah.
I mean, I have gone to a couple AA meetings because I have free food. So, like, a friend of mine was going and
Right.
wanted support for their journey. And I was like, oh my God, I can't go to an AA. Like, really? Like, oh my God, no. And then he was like, there's like free food. And I was like, all right, sold.
Right.
I go, I'll eat, I'll support. I went into a bar immediately after I left. Like, the first thing I did was go drink. I was like, oh God. But it wasn't because I was like, oh, I want to drink and these sober people are bumming me out. It was because of how Christian it was.
Yeah.
It was so Christian and uncomfortable. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. And I remember thinking, even at the time, I was like, God, I feel like if I had a problem and I needed this help, I would not seek help. I wouldn't get help because of how Christian this is. And I do remember thinking, I wish something like this existed, but from like a pagan perspective.
Yeah.
So it's really great that now it does, because I
Exactly.
feel like this will encourage more pagans, more witches who are struggling to finally take the help and seek the help, because finally the religion being fueled behind it, the religion being pushed, the belief system is their own.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I mean, like you said, I think that if I were in a place of needing to take that step and I walked into an AA meeting, it would make me feel so alienated because it's an environment that is built on something that hates people like me.
Correct.
You know? So I'm just really, really glad that something exists for witches to get sober and rebuild their life. Like, that's amazing. I love that. Warms my little heart.
So back to not fun news. So back in February, we talked about how, or beginning of March, anyway, towards the end of February, there was an event in Pagans, South Carolina, at the Market on the Mill, if you recall, a witchcraft shop, the Witch's Broom Closet, which the owner is a queer man, him and other vendors were attacked. There's no other way to describe it. It's an attack. They call it a protest. No, it was a fucking attack. But the Stillwater Christian Fellowship came and they disrupted and began chanting repeatedly, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." Well, they're at it again. Stillwater Christian Fellowship returned to the Market on the Mill on May 10th to once again harass the vendors of the Witch's Broom Closet and chant, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live," over and over again to drive away business and save souls. You guys are fucked. Like, you guys are fucked up. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to hear, like, no, Christian. Like, y'all take responsibility for your fucking people. Like, you guys are crazy. You guys are dark. We're not doing this shit to you. Muslims don't do this shit to you.
No.
Like, Jews don't do this shit to you. Like, we don't do this shit to you. You guys are fucking pathetic. You're pathetic and evil. Like, so pathetic. So evil.
And also, we're not sitting here and claiming that the more racist sects of paganism are not pagans.
Right. They are. Like,
They are.
we're not going to sit there and say, oh, no, they're not real pagans. They're not real heathens.
Right.
No, they are.
They are.
Now, they have adopted these ideals and these ideas into a mindset that was already formed by racist thought.
Yeah.
And so they were able to then look at the Nordic myths and everything and find things, just as Christians do in the Bible, to justify their already deep-seated inlaid bigotry.
Yes.
Like, we own that exists, but they're still pagan.
Yes.
They're still doing pagan ritual ceremony. They're still honoring pagan gods. We're not going to say that they're not.
No.
They are. They're evil. They're fucked up. They're disgusting and ass backwards and fuck them. But they're still pagans. You need to own that these people are still Christians. Exactly. If you are an open, progressive Christian full of love and blah, 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 then you need to own that these people are also still Christians and they're disgusting and you need to get your fucking people in check. Like, I'm tired of this shit. Like, I'm just tired of it. We're not coming for you. You guys are so obsessed with us. Like, I get alerts all the time. We were just reading transcript from a podcast and it was just, once
Witches
again,
are coming, spiritual warfare.
Blah, blah. Like,
and
oh,
it's like,
they're constantly doing spells on it. We're not.
We're making bolognese in our kitchen.
Right.
Like,
we're watching Beyond the Gates, daytime soaps.
Yes.
Like, literally, we're watching Top Chef, The Real Housewives. We're watching American Horror Story. We're watching fucking old cartoons from our childhood. We're watching Disney movies. We're living our lives. We're just living our life. We're not thinking about you.
No.
The only context in which we're thinking about you is when you guys do this shit, and then we have to worry about it.
Exactly. Because then we're scared for our own safety because of the way that your group has made us feel.
Correct. We worry about you people, because you people are psychotic. You're psychotic. Christian nationalism. Christian everything. Y'all are fucking I'm sorry. The fact that you have a puny, weak, jealous God. Really. Your God is so puny and so weak that he's like, I'm jealous. You don't even acknowledge or worship anything. I'm just so jealous. I'm a jealous God. Oh, I don't want you to have knowledge. I want you to be stupid and naked in my Garden of Eden, which none of this is real. Right. But like in your mythology, your God is that weak and that stupid that he was so terrified of his creations having original thought and idea that once they finally bit from the tree of knowledge, which, if you didn't want them there, why would you put that tree there in the first place? Right. Why do they say, to test the will, so they have free will and it's their choice to stay in paradise and follow God blissfully. Right. Or they can bite from this apple of tree of knowledge that I have placed here and become aware of the fact that they're naked. And because they cover themselves with fig leaves, I'm kicking them the fuck out. Like, get out. Your God is weak and stupid. I'm sorry. Your God is weak and stupid. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, your God is weak and stupid. You guys are weak and stupid. And bigots and evil. I'm sorry, gloves are off. You guys bomb clinics. You guys freaking celebrate when gay people died of AIDS, like, and still do. Like, you people are disgusting. There is no, as the saying goes, there is no hate like Christian love. You are all filthy. I'm sorry, you're filthy. You're disgusting. You're animals. You're beasts. Like, do you want to say we're heathens and we're so devoid, pagans are so evil? Come on. No, you guys are satanic. You guys are evil. You guys are agents of darkness and sin and depravity and despair and destruction and fear. You. That is all Christianity is, and that is all it will ever be. Because you don't change it. And you make apologies for your faith instead of owning the nasty, disgusting bigots who are part of your faith, and I'm sorry, are the loudest representatives of your faith, historically. You don't own the Crusades. You don't own the burning times. You don't own the hate crimes committed against people in the name of the Bible. You don't own... You are at fault for everything. Not pagans, not polytheists. You and your Abrahamic one God that has made you all fight amongst yourselves because he's really just the God of war, and what feeds him and gets off is all the bloodshed and infighting and shit you guys do in his name all the fucking time. Bravo. Good job, you fucking losers. Good job.
Yahweh is like sniffing their collars and saying, you smell like other deities.
Yeah. Who is this? Who are you worshiping last night? You guys are disgusting. We're not doing this to you. No. We're just living our lives. You guys are so obsessed with us. Stop it. You're so obsessed with us. We just can't. We're just trying to live our lives. We're just regular people. Like, you gotta honor and respect our privacy. Like, we all deserve our privacy in our personal lives. We deserve it. Just because you're so obsessed with us doesn't mean...
I mean, I get it. We're very cute.
I mean, yeah. You see us all with our conical hats. You see us on the full moon. You see us welcoming the sun on the equinoxes and the solstices. And you see the good time we're having and the good food we're eating and the fire dances and all the cool outfits we wear, and you're jealous.
And don't get us started on us sticking our booties in the air for sun salutations when we do the cursed yoga.
Exactly. You guys are just jealous. You're jealous because your lives are boring and you look boring and you're plain and you're fat and you're conformist and you have no original thought, no original culture. You have nothing. You are the death of culture, the death of creativity, the death of the arts. You're the death of all of it. You're the death of education. You're the death of common decency. You have no humanity to you. You have no Christianity to you. You wouldn't know what any of that is if it came and punched you across your fucking smug face. Thank you.
So now that that is all said, I have a fun little listicle for us for our next little segment.
Wonderful.
And that is, and it kind of actually relates to what you were just talking about. But so I have 10 things that originated from pagan culture.
Oh, like democracy.
Yeah. Oddly, that's not on this list, but it should be.
It should be.
So I guess 11.
Yeah.
Number 1 is the days of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So most of you are aware that each day of the week can be traced back to a pagan element, such as Monday originally came from Moon Day. That was about honoring moon goddesses. In no particular order.
Right.
Sunday was all about the worship of the sun originally. Tuesday named for a Germanic god of war. Friday for a goddess of love.
Freya, right?
Freya, yes, thank you. I was blanking on what her name was. Sorry, Freya, I don't worship you. But I still respect you. Thursday was all about Thor.
Yeah, Thor's Day.
Yeah, Thor's Day. And you know, of course, as humans use words more across multiple centuries, it gets contracted in speech and it changes
pronunciation, and then the spelling changes to match
accommodate that. Yeah. In fact, actually, this is not related to witchcraft, but it's something that goes hand in hand with that. The terms still used today, Mr. and Mrs., originated from master and mistress, and I think that's very interesting the way that it changed over centuries. You know, so of course. Christianity being Christianity, when the kind of pagan Christian takeover was happening at that period of history, the church did attempt to eradicate those references and come up with new things to call the days, but it never really caught on amongst people. They still continued to refer to the days as what they were, similarly to how today no one is going to call Facebook Meta.
No.
Or Twitter X.
No.
See, we're continuing on a time-honored tradition of refusing to call things stupid shit.
Yes.
Another one is birthdays. So in pagan tradition, it was all about like acknowledging major events. Obviously, birth is one of them. So with birthdays, there was a belief that not acknowledging this may open a person up to attack by evil spirits. So in order to keep evil spirits at bay, particularly with children, who of course were less able to fight off attacks than adults were, people would light a candle on the day of the birth so that the person would be safe from attack by evil spirits.
Love it.
And you know, that's where we get the tradition of the birthday cake with the candles. So I think that's really interesting. Third is the names of the months, as well as the days of the week. This is not every single month, but there are a couple that I would like to note. So firstly, January, obviously one root of that is the god Janus. Another one is the actual meaning of January. Like when you break down like the etymological roots, it derives from Yuletide, which is interesting because, you know, of course that is
what precedes it.
Yeah, what precedes it, close to that time of the year is what's being observed, which I think is very cool. We got into this a couple episodes ago, but the correlations between the month of April and Eostre, and which then eventually became the season of Easter. Definitely go back to that episode if you want to hear us kind of get into more in depth about that subject, because it's very interesting. Then, of course, there's the month of June, which comes from Juno or Hera, and I could get into this all day. I am a Herian witch. She is my most intimate deity relationship that I have. I have lots of deities that I do worship and work with and follow, but I would say she is my most close of those. So I could yammer on about her all day. I love her. But she was associated very heavily with the summer solstice. At that time in the year, there was also a festival called HEKA-TEA, which was where young women, as a rite of passage into adulthood, would compete in a competitive race in her name, and that would be held right after the male Olympics. And I will get more in depth into that topic in a later episode, but that is why she was associated most strongly with the summer solstice, because that time period would fall in late June into early July, as does the summer solstice. So I love that every June is a time to get all crazy in her name and beauty. Anywho, which also kind of continues on the subject a little bit, is the practice of wedding rings. So the practice of wearing your wedding ring on the fourth finger of your left hand was also tied to Greco-Roman culture. They saw your fourth finger as your medicated finger, which was called that because there was a vein running up that finger directly to your heart. So I think that's a cool, beautiful reason for it to be that finger. And then in Egyptian culture, in the third dynasty of the Old Kingdom, this was not necessarily related to marriage, but people would exchange rings to represent a binding agreement between two parties. So it's
does have that contractual.
Yes. Not necessarily marriage. It could be marriage, but it could also be, an arrangement.
A business deal.
Exactly. So I thought that was an interesting tie between those two types of arrangements. Also, the expression "knock on wood," excuse me, was a Celtic origin. It was believed to have a means of asking spirits for protection or healing. You would knock on, a tree or whatever,
to get that
to ask them for protection. Some also believed you could do it as well to repel evil spirits or something malefic that you felt like was following you. And it's just interesting that expression has endured to this day.
Yes.
And then, you and I will both love this next little bullet point, but jewelry.
Oh, yes.
We love jewelry.
We do.
It's kind of our thing.
Yes.
So in ancient pagan times, jewelry was common to distinguish wealth or status. It was also a means to connect to the gods, which I love because we definitely still practice in that way.
Correct.
In fact, we're wearing multiple items dedicated to our deities, which it makes me happy that has been such a tradition of longevity.
Yes, agreed.
And of course,
which of course the Christians have adopted, wearing their crosses.
Yes. Of course, most people know Egyptians buried their dead with jewelry to begin their journey into the afterlife. Yes. So in Roman culture, gold could only be worn to denote political importance or nobility. So I think that's interesting as well. It was kind of just one of those types of metals or colors that was only to denote a certain thing.
Right.
So I like that. And of course, moving on would be cats or other familiars. Keeping a familiar was a common practice to enhance one's spiritual powers through your connection with the animal. Common familiars would be cats, dogs, toads, or other small animals. And of course, Christianity used this practice to fuel the witch hunts by tying these animals to the devil, which led to, unfortunately, not only the massacre of so many people, but also of animals, as we've discussed a little bit before. Also, the practice of crossing your fingers.
Oh, yes.
Not only with just one person, but you and another person would cross your index fingers together like this to invoke spirits to bring the two of you good luck. Christianity used early Christianity also used this with two people to denote allegiance to the cause. So this is another thing that they adopted from us. Another one is makeup. Of course, Egyptians were known for heavy eye makeup. Romans also used makeup to show influence and personal style. Christianity, of course, branded makeup as being dirty and sinful. So then it took quite a few hundred years before makeup came back into common practice and fashion. The last one is covering your mouth when you sneeze or cough or yawn, whatever. Romans believed that yawning specifically could invite disease or death into your body. So they would cover their mouths to not allow that in. Specifically with young children, they would cover the children's mouths because, obviously, just going back to something else that we had discussed, it was believed that children would be less adept at protecting themselves spiritually than grown adults would be. So that was just something that they did for protection for their children.
Well, thank you for that. I just think it's funny. If you want to be a good Christian, don't cover your mouth. Don't say excuse me. Don't you need to be filthy and disgusting. If you want to be a good Christian, you need to be impolite. I mean, you kind of are. And disgustingly burpy and not cover your mouth and just let it all hang out. And then you'll be a good Christian.
Right. And don't wear makeup.
Yeah, don't wear makeup or jewelry. You're doing pagan things. Stop it. Stop. You need to take off that cross necklace. It's pagan.
Exactly.
Stop being bad Christians.
Stop wearing jewelry because it's pagan and there's more for us.
Yeah, stop wearing makeup, stop wearing jewelry, stop being polite, just be disgusting and plain and boring like you guys are.
Right.
Well, awesome. We'll be right back with SpellCraft and with our witchy media review, A Cursed or Cursed Man. All right, so we are back with SpellCraft.
Yes, without further ado.
We know last episode, we kind of half-assed it.
Yeah.
Just by being here's an onion spell.
We half-mooned it.
Yeah, we did. We did half-moon it. So we thought, not thought. We just were okay, we need to get back to being right.
Exactly.
So we have two spells that, with these trying times and these weird legal situations and messes that we're in right now, and the uncertainty with the government and our law enforcement and just how everything kind of is scary, and how the Christians are getting, and with what happened in Pagans on the 10th, and just all this craziness, we thought we would just give you a couple spells to help get through all that. With our first spell, we have a van.
Oh, yes. Okay, so this one is for if, unfortunately, you have had a situation where you are in a legal situation, you have a hearing coming up or something of that nature. So this is a victory name spell for a hearing. So what you're going to do is, several days prior to your court proceeding, you're going to assemble the names of any favorable parties to your case. So your attorney, any allies to you, positive witnesses, anyone of that nature that you think would be helpful to your case.
Right.
Write down each name on a slip of paper and put those into a dish. cover all of the names inside of the dish with sweet almond oil, olive oil, and or honey. I would personally recommend using all three,
Yes.
but if you don't have any of the ingredients on hand, as long as you at least have one or two, you'll be fine.
Right.
So then you're gonna burn a white candle beside the dish for 1 hour per day, and after that 1 hour is done, pinch the flame out with your fingers, and so do that every day leading up to your hearing. Once the day of your hearing comes, do the same thing, but don't pinch it out, just allow it to burn throughout the proceeding, and that should give you a more favorable outcome at your hearing. And you know what? As a legal assistant, catch me covertly doing this at my desk.
Great. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
My spell is called Law Keep Away Black Skull Candle Spell. This is apparently really great in terms of immigration. So ICE, all of that. So for all of you out there who that is an issue, a worry about happening, which at this point we should all be worried about that because they're just breaking into anyone's home and pulling people's side for any reason. So you're going to want to acquire some ingredients. High John the Conqueror root, which you can just get as a powder. Poppy seed, black poppy seeds. Asafoetida, and hydrangea blossoms, and all these things you will want to grind together into a powder. You're also going to want to get a black skull candle, which obviously easily acquired online or at your local botanica or occult shop, or even your own Michael's craft store. So you're going to grind all those things into a powder. Then you're going to dress the skull with the powder. Then you're going to write your request down on a piece of paper. So obviously, keep ice the fuck away from me. Keep whatever the fuck away from me. Then you are going to scorch. You're going to light the candle, and then you're going to scorch the paper with the flames. Don't burn the paper, just scorch it. Then you're going to put that under a saucer. So for those who are like a saucer is either a small plate, usually like a teacup plate, or a small bowl, like a saucer of milk that you would give a kitty. But in general, it's usually like a smaller plate, like just like what you would put like a teacup on, a little plate. Put that under it. You're going to put the skull on top of that. Then you are going to place candle like this. So place the candle on top so it burns over the paper. Once the candle has burned low down, so there's a little bit left, it's got that, it's not like about to die out, like, you know, sudden movement and it's done, but like it's maybe got, you know, it's got like an hour left, maybe two. You're like, yeah, it's pretty much gonna, it's towards its end. That's when you will then take the plate. So obviously you're gonna want to like take the candle off the plate or just lift the plate up. Realistically, lift the plate up if you don't have the skull in something. Lift the plate up, not by the burning candle because that's all waxy. Pull the paper out. Then you're going to burn the paper completely in the rest of the way in the flame of the candle, and then allow the flame to burn out naturally. You can also do this intermittently if you only have like 20 minutes a day to spare. Then just start doing it and doing it consistently at the same time. So always make sure that, especially with anything where you're doing it over the course of days, that you're always doing it at the same time, every day, every evening, whatever, so you can guarantee its effectiveness. So always pick a time. So if it's like, like, okay, I don't always work the same schedule at my job, you have fluctuating shift hours, but you do know for sure you will always be home by 10 p.m. Well, I don't care how dog and tired you are. If you're having to do this for a short amount of time over a course of a certain amount of days, then 10 p.m. is your time. Or if you're like, I know that no matter what, I am always home until 10 a.m. every day. Well, then make sure you're doing it every day at 9 a.m. You know what I mean? Like, just make sure it's the same time until you get that candle. Or in any spell that involves this kind of burn down, make sure that you're just doing it at the same time until you get to where it needs to be. So there you go. 2 spells to help save your ass and protect you and keep you safe in these uncertain times. Uncertain Christian national times.
Yes.
All right. So with that being said, we're not doing pagan invasion, taking a break.
Yes. A pagan break.
As you can see, Mormonism, introduction to Mormons,
yes, would not
fit in anything we've talked about thus far. It's been quite a divergence. And now that we enter Witchy Media Review, you will now see why our media also would not work with that.
Exactly.
So, Evan, take it away.
Yes. So for today's Witchy Media Review, we watched a new documentary that just came out recently. So good, called A Cursed Man.
Or A Cursed Man. We never got clarification, and both pronunciations were used.
Yes. So this documentary is written, directed, and executive produced by Liam Le Guillou. It is executive produced as well by Michael Stephen Robbins, with Nigel Levy also set as a consultant producer. Blake Horn is the cinematographer. So basically, it introduces the audience to the world of witchcraft and the occult by searching for an answer to the question, is magic real? Seeking out some of the world's most powerful dark magic practitioners, Liam will ask the unthinkable, that they put a curse on him.
Yeah.
Yes, so he sets out on this journey to be cursed for reasons unclear. Mainly, he expresses that he wants some validation as to whether magic is real, and he will believe it more if it's something negative versus a positive.
Right, and therefore, by extension, this would also prove divinity.
Yes. So he meets with witches in California, that's who he meets first.
Griffin Seth or Seed.
Yes.
Who created his own practice called the Sed Witchcraft
Yes.
path, or Seed Witchcraft, however you pronounce his last name. That's
Yeah.
the path.
He then goes to some voodoo practitioners in New Orleans, tantrics in India, and then the last person he visits is a Satanist shaman in Mexico. He exposes himself to some of the world's darkest magic, and on his journey, he also meets with psychologists and scientists studying the real-world effects of magic and the power of belief, which was a very interesting segment of the documentary. At the kind of final, 30 or 20 minutes of the documentary, we begin to see the consequences of his request to begin to hit home. So, of course, then, predictably, he seeks out help from the very witches that warned him to not embark upon this journey, forcing him to question the nature of reality in this dangerous, dark social experiment.
It was good.
It was good.
It was so good. It never mocked witchcraft or magic in the occult in any way. And so, therefore, the scenes of spellcasting, the scenes of ritual were taken seriously and didn't come across as farcical.
No.
Unfortunately, not on fault of the witches allowing the casting, but a lot of times when you see documentaries about witches and witchcraft and magic and ritual is shot, you can tell by that the filmmakers are just like not even gonna bother taking it seriously because of how it just comes across, how it's portrayed, and it almost feels it was almost shot in like the most harsh lighting or whatever possible to make it look as ridiculous as possible. Whereas this was shown with reverence and really took you as the viewer
into the world.
Into all of it. And it was moving. It was powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
When he finally goes to Griffin Seth, who owns the Green Man, which is a witchcraft shop in Los Angeles, which we've talked about before. We have mentioned this before episodes ago, maybe like episodes 2 or 3. I think.
It was very early.
Very early. But his coven released the director from all of this, and but it was very beautiful and powerful. This dehexing, this spell, this debinding that they were doing, this unbinding they were doing, these closing of pacts and promises. We felt it through the screen. Like
definitely.
We were just like sitting there watching it, and it wasn't like being overcome with emotion. Like it wasn't like, oh, sympathy and oh, this is a beautiful. It was. We felt it was the magic, and we felt the magic through the screen.
It was as though we were transported into the moment.
Into the moment, in the ritual. We felt like we both just suddenly like overcame with tears and chills and emotion. And it was vibratory, and I definitely in that moment I was like, oh shit, this is literally coming from the spell. Like this is powerful, potent shit. And as we know, like this is all TV, radio waves, all of this is all tangible. It's all energy, it's all real, it all transports through. It's why if you are a clairvoyant medium, like watching things about ghosts and hauntings can be a dangerous situation if you don't have walls up, because next thing you know, you're connecting with the ghost, this malevolent ghost at this random haunted house in Illinois that you're watching on TV, being filmed by ghost hunters, because you are connecting to that, all those radio waves, all of that shit. You're connecting to all of it. So, that's the way the magic was real.
It was. Oh my gosh.
This was great.
It really was. I loved it. I mean, I was just, as many of the witches who he spoke to were, I was just frustrated with him embarking on this journey in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think one of the witches he spoke to in New Orleans, I am blanking on his name. But one of the witches he spoke to called it an entitled practice. Yeah. And that is how I felt as well.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting to just follow him on where this journey took him, whether it be at the most surface level or at this darkest part of his path, which he definitely, it led him to some dark moments for sure.
It did. You got fucked up.
Oh yeah.
And mentally, emotionally, physically.
Yes, and you could just,
interiorly, externally.
Yeah, and you could tell the difference in his interviews from the beginning of the documentary to the middle and end part.
And then also once it was broken by the seed coven, whatever they're called. Our apologies if you are a member. Please let us know how to pronounce it in the comments. But once Griffin and his coven did this and broke this, you also saw it reflected in him. It was all, he was back to who he was when you first met him, when he was curious and almost treating it like a parlor trick.
Yeah.
Even though there was sincerity behind his reasons, he was unable to articulate, because I think in some ways you can't really articulate why the fuck you would do this.
No.
I personally think he was scared about cancer. I think his mortality.
Yes.
And I think that is why he pursued it, because he was not finding any spiritual connection.
Right, and he was at a place where he would just rather face it head on by his own choice.
Well, and I think,
than wait for it to come to him.
Right, and I think like good things were happening. People will be like, well, look at your blessings.
Right.
And he doesn't deal with cancer. Like, he doesn't end up having it. I'm just going to spoil alert that he doesn't end up having cancer, but it is a thing that he's grappling with. And the fear of having it and coming in because it's in his family, pretty bad. But he I think grappling with that, and everyone probably in his life, while he started confessing that he's worried about these things, would always be like, well, no matter what, like, look at all these amazing blessings that have happened in your life, all these things.
Right.
But I think when you're suddenly facing, like, a scare possibility of, I'm going to get test results back, and it's going to say this, like, the blessings don't prove to you anymore that divinity is real.
Right.
Like, you think it should and could, especially if it's, like, something really profoundly brilliant and positive and amazing, and then you get that feeling of, oh, something bigger is blessed this upon me. But in those moments of darkness inside of yourself, you may not.
That's true.
So, what are you going to do? Well, you're like, okay, well, the blessings aren't showing anything. But what if I get someone to curse? Like, that's some shit you're going to notice.
Right.
And, I mean, he noticed.
Oh, yeah.
He noticed.
Sure did.
So did everyone else in his life around him.
Right. Very interesting premise, though.
Yes. Very interesting. I like that we learned about, like, places like, I mean, some places, like, I should say learned about, because, like, for example, the Rhine Center is in it, which is one of the leading parapsychological institutes of study and research, and I mean, this is a place, like, almost anyone who's, like, reads about ghost hauntings, psychics, ESP, like, they've heard of the Rhine Institute.
Yeah.
So I've heard about it. I've never really known too much about it, like, in terms of, like, I've read it, and, like he has this book, The Unexplained, which I had that book, but I had it in paperback. But, like, I was like, when he whips out this book, The Unexplained, from his childhood, I was like, that looks really fucking familiar to me. And then he opened up the pages, and I was like, oh my god, I had that book, but I had a paperback version. He had the original hardcover version. I had a paperback of it. But so I had all these type of books. Time Life had Time Life, The Unexplained, which was like every book was like 12-volume series, and that kind of bullshit. And but I will say it was nice to see and learn more about what they do, and to find out that, like, these are, like, there was, like, he talked to 2 different scientific organizations, all of which are like, yeah, we've proven magic physically, like, that's what we do here. We use the scientific method, like how people are using scientific tools and things to prove ghosts and hauntings are real, by using lasers, heat, infrared, mapping, all these things that can be done EVP to physically prove, video documentation, etc. They use those same patterns and methods to try to get, like, actual results, which they do, that are documented. And it's sad that the broader scientific community won't even pay attention to the things that, like, ghost hunters and stuff, the evidence that is acquired via, like, actual scientific method and tools that, like, can't be, like, argued with, really, like, that, they apply methods of disproval, because that's what you want to do. You want to test your hypothesis, and part of that is disproving it. The Right Institute, along with some others that he spoke with, are doing the same thing to prove witchcraft, to, like, prove the physical results and the physical actions of spellcasting, of witchcraft, of hexing, of cursing, of healing, all this stuff. And they were like, yeah, we have proof. We have we do have the proof. We have tested these things, and we have shown this result and that result. It's very fascinating. Like, definitely watch this documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you can afford to rent it, on Amazon is $3.99 SD, $5.99 HD, or you can buy it. Obviously, it's worth the buy. Like, honestly, it's worth the buy.
Oh, for sure. I might actually turn around and buy it. It was really good.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I want to rewatch it. Like, I want to immediately rewatch it. It's so good. Also, loved that, like, pretty much every male witch in the documentary was queer.
Yes.
Like, there's probably 1 or 2 that were not, but yeah, they were all, like, queer men. I say queer men because they may not identify as gay. I don't want to say gay men, but I will definitely say they were dick suckers.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say men who have at one point or another had a dick in their mouth.
I would say pretty much all of them on a regular basis.
Yes.
It was just great, though, because, again, it's showing this thing that, like, that almost every, like, witch, magical practitioner, male magical practitioner, majority of them are queer.
Yeah, that's true.
Whether gay, bisexual, pansexual, however they identify, they're fucking queer. Like, and that needs to stop being ignored.
Yeah.
Like, there is something to that. Well, I guess we're not going to ignore it. Future episode, we're going to fucking, that's I guess something we're going to go into. We'll do it. But yeah, it was just really great to see that.
See that in a movie, yes. That's not just, us talking on our show.
Right, exactly. I think for both of us, a full moon.
Oh, yeah.
So a super moon.
Super moon.
It was a super moon. Definitely watch A Cursed Man or A Cursed Man.
Yes.
However you would like to pronounce it. Watch it, love it.
Do all the things.
Show it to your friends.
Just don't set out to get yourself cursed.
Yeah,
we already know how that goes.
Don't do what he did.
Yeah.
Don't try to prove anything by getting yourself cursed.
Learn from Liam's mistakes.
Yeah, it's not worth it. But the documentary is, and watching him go through it is
very
satisfying. I mean, it's definitely like the things, like, if you're a magical practitioner, especially if you've been doing it for a long time, obviously a lot of things that they talk about, you're gonna be like, well, duh, no shit, no brainer. But there's a satisfaction in being able to do that.
Yes.
And then see
it happen before your eyes.
Yeah, and you're like, well, yeah, and then you're like, because magic's fucking real.
Exactly. Oh my God. Honestly, I'm just glad that he came out of this experience alive, because I was worried.
Yeah. Now, when you talk to the psychologist is like, she's like, oh yeah, this is gonna totally affect you. But she's like, oh, well, it was planted in your brain, so it's like suggestion, and then you're doing it to yourself. So, but I'm like, and yes, people like to run with that, but I'm like, bitch, we've all cursed, hexed, whatever, many a people in situation, and they didn't know that they were, or that it ever happened, and it still works out. Because as we always said, it's not whether they believe.
It's about
you believing. The only person who needs to believe the spell's going to work is the person casting the spell and sending it out.
Exactly.
Your target doesn't, or targets
they don't need to be aware of it.
They don't need to know. I mean, first of all, why would you let anyone know that you're hexing them?
Exactly.
Like, that's stupid. Just fucking do it. Like I've never told somebody I'm hexing them.
No, wouldn't that be a strange email? Dear Bobby, I placed a curse upon your head this morning. How is your muffin?
Right. Well, what's hilarious is anytime I've actually threatened to hex someone, I've never done it.
Exactly.
Like, I've literally never done it. If I'm going to threaten to hex you, I'm just not going to probably bother to actually do it. I've never, anyone I've ever had to hex for whatever situation, throw a hex on, I've never told them. That defeats the purpose. Like, I don't, like, no, I'm just going to fucking do my shit, step back, and watch it happen. Like, I don't need to, no. Like, I don't need to be anywhere near you. If I threaten to do it, I'm more trying to warn you that I could, and this is the consequence, don't cross me.
Exactly.
Even if I'm like, I'm going to do it, I'm not.
Exactly. The fear that I place upon you will do all that I have done.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even need to waste my time because I know your own paranoia. You're going to be looking around your shoulder worried that that's what's going to happen. And then anytime something goes wrong, you're going to wonder if I did it. You're doing the work for me.
Exactly.
I don't have to. If I'm hexing you, I'm not going to threaten to do it. I'm not going to let you know that I'm planning on it. I'm not going to put that in your brain.
And then there's some people who you don't even need to curse because, bless them, they're a curse unto themselves.
Correct. And that's the greatest gift of all.
Exactly.
I would say the greatest curse of all. But
I mean, for a lazy witch, that certainly is the greatest gift because I don't got to do anything.
It's true. It's true.
And yeah, I still get to watch the destruction.
Also true. Well,
I think that about wraps up another episode. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Going on this wild ride that we took you all on.
Yes. Obviously, do not forget, if you like what you've seen or don't like what you've seen, but you got something to say about it regardless, please.
Yes.
Let us know. Actually, if you didn't like it, keep your mouth shut because we don't care.
Exactly.
If you did like it, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Spread the word about this baneful and blessed coven that we're trying to build here on our little corner of the circle. As always, remember, witches, broomsticks, not just for cleaning.